We'd like to start out by thanking our valuable sponsors. Sense of Satisfaction by Cricket is the place for all your fragrance needs. Plus, she's got products to heal what ails your skin and your hair. Shop at scentsbycricket.com. Special thanks to our valued sponsor, John Travis, a financial coach and certified Kingdom advisor with Richard Young Associates, a registered investment advisor. Thanks goes to Anna Patterson, my sister in the Lord who faithfully gives to this ministry every month. And to our newest sponsor, LaToya Gerard of Preach the Word Worldwide Network. She is a valued sponsor and a major encourager regarding this ministry. We need and would love to have you as a sponsor. Absolutely no gift is too small. Please note the info regarding giving throughout and at the end of the show, and help us spread these testimonies around the world. Please note that the views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily the viewpoints of our sponsors. It's time to hear the story, make the connection, learn the lesson, and gain the wisdom. Are you ready? Let's get charged and be changed. The SisterSpeak+BrotherBreak show. Conversations on grace, healing, and deliverance. This is Marcy Bush. Come on, let's journey together.
Because to be honest, the relationships that we have now, I still didn't know that we had then. Like, you know, I talk to my brother now because he's such a loving. I pick at him now. I'm like, you done got really emotional. But he's become so loving, specifically towards his siblings. And I told him, I was like, I got to get used to that. Like, it's not that I don't want to hug you. We're hugging family, but we never hugged like that. And so, you know, they were reaching out, and I think what hit me one time was you called me and we were talking and you said, Jessica, and I was like, yes, ma'am. You was like, your brother misses you. Well, I'm thinking Chad, you know, but Chad is Chad, you know, Chad called me all the time. And when you said Kevin, I was like, what? You know? And it hit me different because I've never heard my brother say he missed me, you know, so anyway, fast forward to moving back.
Well, I want to move back some.
Okay.
Too, so even because, like as always, it's the conversation, and I want us to have conversations that create other conversations or either kind of give insight or whatever. Because you and I talk a lot, but that doesn't mean that you've had the same conversations with other family members. And like I said, beyond, God knows, beyond our family, all of our family may not even watch this, so it's not about this, but it is about relationships, families, connections, understanding, because so many times we filter everything through our own experience or through how we would handle something. One half time, heck, we can say what we would do.
Right.
You do not know until you're in a situation.
Right, definitely.
But even, you know, with you saying, so like I said, with our family being, we're going to split these times, we're going to stay tonight. Thinking about if it were me and my sisters especially, what we would do with my mama versus, but you are not us.
Right.
And I think even part of the issue, and this is what I believe that, yeah, our family is close. However, we so much respect people's space, I think, till we don't even get in it. And I'll speak for me. I can't speak for my whole family. And I can speak for what I see from my viewpoint. Sometimes we don't jump in, not to take control, but to just say, what's going on? This isn't like you. I'm noticing something different. We'll call each other and say, you know what's going on with so-and-so, okay? But I can't answer for them.
Right.
And I'm guilty too. I'm not acting like I'm the one that, no. I'm guilty too. And so and I think I would say maybe she just can't handle it.
Yeah.
You know, like when you didn't go back to the hospital after the mastectomy. And I think you were on for another shift or something. Or either you left, somebody came and it wasn't your time to go, but you left. And it's like, what is Jess doing? Jess just came home to chill or to hang out with family.
And I think that's what I think I went to hang out with some friends. But, and I think I don't know if one of my, somebody was talking about me. I can't remember what it was, who it was. I don't know if it was my siblings or what, but that was the first sign of I can't handle this.
Right. But you never said, y'all, I can't.
Because I didn't know I couldn't.
And we never asked. It was like, what is Jessica doing?
I didn't know I couldn't
she
handle
came
it.
all the way
to
from
me,
Tennessee.
to me, it was just, I was there. Like, and I'll come back later. That was what it was.
But you had to run. It's funny that a lot of runners don't know they run.
I had no clue. I didn't even know I ran until I started actually, like, the process of grieving. Like, because I believe, like, what I went through it was grief. But I feel like the process of grieving is when you're gradually learning how to get out of it. And I didn't do that until I came back. And but even in those years after my mom passed, I was still running. I was running in place, but I was running, you know, and not coming home was part of the running. I didn't come home for nothing.
And I don't even remember what was going on, but I remember one time you were like, I will live in my car before I come back to Aiken. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
What did we do to Jessica? That's what I'm thinking. Like, what did we? And I've learned over time that so many times what a person's going through has nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you. And everything to do with their own coping skills or lack thereof. Yeah. Their own coping mechanisms. And Aiken spoke too loud for you for a long time.
And that's the thing. I don't think people, if you know that someone's grieving, because sometimes it's hard to tell, but if you know that someone is, I like encourage, don't take things personally, because even though I could have said so many, I could have blamed it on so many people. Oh, I heard this person say this, I heard this, and that's where no, like, even if I heard it, that was minute to the things that was going on in my own head that I was telling myself. And so I encourage
you
people.
Telling yourself and the enemy speaking.
Right. And so I just encourage, like, if you know that if you know, because like I said, it's so hard to tell. It's so hard to tell. But if you do, just know that, like, don't take anything those people, I hate to put them in the category, but people say personally who are grieving, because at that moment you're just that, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And it's so hard to put into words at times, because in order to grieve properly, you got to sit in it.
You got to
work through it. And when you're a runner, I mean, and there's so many different ways that people run.
Majority people run from grief.
Yeah, and don't know.
And sometimes you're not running at the moment, but afterwards, like, because to sit in it means I have to deal with it, and to deal with it means I have to purge it out. And a lot of people don't take the time to do that, and and they carry it for so many years. Like me crying now, you know, it's more so just because I'm having to relive that moment. But, like, I've dealt with the fact that my mom is gone. You know, I'm not saying that I don't have my moments, you know. I mean, even since then, things have happened that I've had to grieve again, and it's brought up even more emotions. Like, it's definitely an everyday process.
Right.
It's something that doesn't stop.
Right.
It doesn't. I mean, you got to imagine, if I ever have kids, if I get married, those are those moments I'll never have to spend. So for me, like going through life, I have businesses. To be, you know what it feel like to be able to tell my mom,
right,
like I'm a business owner, you know, and let her see all the things that I've been able to accomplish, and show her all the, like, I would love to be able to relive the moment of opening that door and her seeing all the cartoon characters, you know, to be able to show her all the videos that I've made, all of the pictures that I've taken, and her, you know, I knew you could do it.
Right, because you weren't doing photography at that time, were you? Okay. So you got, like you said, you got the photography, videography, the graphics, the t-shirt design and printing, all of that. Yep. And so much more still even in you.
Audio and all of that. So, and I just, you know, and I know she sees it. I know, I feel my mom a lot of the times, but it, like I said, it's bittersweet. I've been in a lot of moments where my friends' parents are there to root them on. And, you know, I have my moments where I wish I had my mom to do that. Or I wish I had my dad to do this. And, you know, I have my siblings, and I feel like I got my dad sometimes because of my brother. But, you know, it, like I said, it's a everyday, it's a decision you just have to make and say, like, yes, I'm going to deal with it, but I'm not going to let it overtake me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that time in Tennessee, and what compelled you? What made you know it's time to go back?
I was hitting rock bottom, you know. I had left the church, so I didn't have a church home anymore. So to me, I'm lost.
And the church that you were at, besides doing audio, video, this broadcast, that broadcast, the young people were
goodness.
Like your kids.
Yeah. And that was what hurt the most, because that was being attacked too.
When you came back to Aiken, you said you moved in with your dad. How did it feel coming back to the place where you had just kind of, I won't say given up on, but had kind of sworn off, like, that's not where I'm going to be?
I felt lost. Cause I didn't know where I fit anymore. I did go to, like, my mom's graveside a couple of times, thinking, you know, I could get some type of closure, but I never felt any type of closure or anything, because I never felt like, you know, like she was there, just to be honest.
Right.
You know. And I really, when I first came back home, I think I stayed around you a lot, I think, because you know, you were more so my safe space, you know, because I didn't have a job. I think the only one that was living here at the time was my oldest brother, but of course he has a family, and he lived in Hepzibah, so that was so far away from where I was. So I think I would come spend some time with you a lot, and I was trying to figure out where to begin. And me and my dad's relationship, it was almost non-existent. Yeah.
And so, but you said, I think I remember you saying, I know for sure, but I think I remember you telling us that you were a daddy's girl early on.
Yes, that was, my daddy was he was like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, little girls sometimes be like, that's my boyfriend, that's my, you know, that's how I looked at my dad. Like, he was just special to me.
That was your hero.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I felt like we didn't have a lot in common, but we did. Even now, with me being older, there's traits that I see in my mom, but there's definitely traits I see with my dad. But yeah, like in the early stages, man, my dad was, I love my dad like so much. And it wasn't even like I said, it wasn't necessarily that he treated me different. It was just, I loved riding in the car with him. Wherever he went, I just wanted to be. I just thought he was just the greatest man ever. And then as we kind of grew up, I don't know what the transition was for him. At that time, I didn't know what the transition was. But once we made that move to Aiken, and he actually ended up losing his job. I think he got laid off because of the place.
Train wreck. It was around that train wreck.
Yeah, there was a huge train wreck where the trains derailed, and I think it was poison and stuff kind of seeped out into the air. A lot of people passed away from that, and the plant that he worked at shut down. So he lost his job from there, and it just seemed like this decline where he started drinking a lot. Like he had drank before, even when we were younger, but it was never to the extent of where he had went then. He drank so much that it'd just be incoherent sometimes and wouldn't know where he was. And
that paired with the diabetes.
So he found out that he was a diabetic, I think at that time, because we moved when I was 6, and the transition happened, I think, when I was in middle school.
Okay.
So he found out he was a diabetic not too long after he lost his job. And it was kind of, I want to say well, I'll say this. I don't know what stage what stage he found out he was in, but because of him not taking care of himself, it just became rapid progression.
Right.
Like we were all in it with him. When he found out that he was that he had diabetes, my mom was like, she was going to change our whole diet. And then but he just kept drinking and taking insulin on top of that. And my mom was like, well, basically if you're not going to take care of yourself, then what can we do?
Right.
And it was a lot of scarring things that happened in those years, my middle school to high school years, when it came to my dad. And I lost a whole bunch of respect for him. I wanted him to fight, through whatever it was that he was going through. To be honest, in those years, I didn't really know what depression was. So in those years, I really, I was young. I didn't really know what depression was. I didn't deal with it. Like on the episode where my brother was talking, we didn't have a lot of money, but I didn't know we didn't have a lot of money. Like I thought we were okay. I never would have thought that we were, on the lower end. Right. But we had an amazing childhood coming up. Like, even when my dad lost his job, there was no transition other than, my dad went through some times where he was supposed to be paying certain bills and he just made other choices. And it just got to the place where my mom could not, I feel like, hide it from us anymore because it was putting such a toll on her. And so she was just like, if you're not going to pay the light bill, the light's just not going to be on. So there were some times where we had the lights off, and that's when reality started hitting. But it hit me differently because it hit me in a way where it was like, well, why you not choosing us? Why you not paying the lights, but you going to buy alcohol? Right. So I think that's when I started, kind of feeling like, okay, you're choosing everything else over me. And that's when our relationship just became null and void. I could not. I mean, it was to the point. I remember I had a boyfriend come over, and my dad tried to come up and kind of size him up. I was like, "You don't get to do that."
Oh wow.
Just being honest, because for me, it's like, no, what can you say? You have not been that example for me. So yeah, when I got back, and At this time now, I'm probably, I was 21 when I moved. So now, about 25, 26?
Okay. You were gone 6 years? How long were you?
27, yeah. About 6 or 7 years. So yeah. So but
you're mid to late 20s.
Yeah. So at this point, I probably had talked to my dad a strong 5 or 6 times in those years. Yeah, like actually talked to him on the phone.
Right.
There were some times where it spiritually had got to me and I wanted that relationship, and I would call him and be like, I forgive you, but then he'd do something. It was plenty of times where I would just, like I said, call him, tell him I love him, I forgive you for everything, and he'd do something. And so when I moved back this time, I was guarded. We lived in a house and we barely talked.
Okay.
So yeah.
But then, so did that well, before I even go into it shifting with your dad, let's just kind of, I guess, chronologically move so you're back, you're staying with your dad and trying to find, or maybe not, but some semblance of a relationship there. We know that God is a major part of your life, has been. That was a common thread. You said you had stopped going to church in Tennessee, so now you're back here. What does your relationship, your walk with God look like as you came back?
I still had my relationship with God. I was still reading my word, but for me, being like reading the word and being home doesn't do enough for me. I always need to be around like-minded people. That's just me. So it wasn't enough. I knew where I pretty much wanted to be. When I was coming up, I had wanted to be a new beginning in the first place. But there was a lot that went on with that. And so, but I was still searching, because wherever I went, I was totally dead set on I'm not serving. I was served out. And I didn't want to be hurt again. That was my thing. And so I first went to my old church. I went to Zion Fair. I had went to a couple rehearsals and was actually just playing around, played on organ with some musicians and that kind of thing. I think it was a couple of weeks, but I finally ended up going back to, I went to church at New Beginning. And I was just there. I really was just there and wanted to just be there. Just let me be here. That was my thing. And then while I was there, my uncle asked me, he needed a drummer. I was like, okay. It took a minute, because I did not want to get back into that thing.
So it wasn't even about any particular church that you didn't want to, you just, because of the trauma that you had experienced in church in Tennessee, you just were like, it's gonna be easier for me to be a pew dweller.
Exactly. Let me just come, get the word, and go home. That was my thing. And so he asked me to start playing, and I think I filled in a couple of times at first, not really trying to fully commit to anything, and then I noticed something at the church I was going to at New Beginning. And the pastor he would go in the audio booth, he would run sound for the praise team, and then he'd go preach. And I was like, how can you mentally prepare yourself for this if, and it goes back to the way my mom, she just raised us to be servants. That's just how she raised us to be. And so there was all these things that I was seeing. I was like, why is nobody getting, like, and I think it took me a month or two, because I'm fighting not wanting to serve, but I love this pastor so much that I was like, I can't, he has to be freed up. And I battled that. a lot. You know, I was like, nope, I'm not going to do it. I just want to sit here. I don't want to be hurt again. And finally one Sunday I just went to him and I was like, is it okay if I help you out in the booth?
Okay.
And that's what just kind of started all of everything all over again. But I think this time around, because of his teachings, because of what I had been through previously, I knew how to say no sometimes, and I knew how to allow myself to breathe once in a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think so many times with people that are built like you do, even if, and it's like above and beyond, above and beyond. And above and beyond is good until above and beyond starts to affect you.
Right.
And then we become, because if you're not careful, like, I think it's just that whole balance thing. And balance doesn't mean, like, balance for one person can be different than balance for another person.
Right.
But you got to know how to balance it, because then things do, you know, like looking back at your time in Tennessee, I'm sure looking back, you see where you had red flags, indicators, where you just knew, nah, I need to say. And in your head, you probably like, oh, I ain't doing it.
Right.
They ask me, I ain't doing it. As soon as they ask you, you do it.
Do it. Yeah.
And so you have to learn yourself, as well as the people around you.
Yeah. And I also think that I was still in the mourning process. I hadn't been freed from that. I hadn't been freed from the depression. I hadn't been freed from just her death. I was still living in that moment, you know. So guards were still up when it came to that as well. And so I think it still was another way out to hide as well. So yeah.
Now, which was a way to hide? Serving or being just coming and going?
Coming and going was the mindset I wanted. I think for me.
Thanks so much for joining us today. If you've been blessed by today's show, feel free to let us know. And if you'd like to sow into this ministry, become a sponsor, or contact us, you can reach us at 803-221-0169. Or you can email us at the ssbbshow@gmail.com. Let's continue this journey together. We need and would love to have you as a sponsor. Absolutely no gift is too small. Please note the info regarding giving and help us spread these testimonies around the world.